Today on Locked On Rockies. Well, that ending was ugly, but overall, the Colorado Rockies win a series. But man, the ninth inning, lots to talk about there, lots to recap. And boy, howdy, the Rockies might have one of the best catchers in the bigs.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked On Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 25th day of May in the year 2023. I am your host of the Locked On Rockies podcast, Paul Holden, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day, and if your team is the Colorado Rockies, you are in the right spot because that's what we do around here is talk about the Colorado Rockies each and every single day. I appreciate you, our everyday listeners, our everydayers out there, those tuning in, make this whole thing possible. And I hope you like the new look of the show. If you're checking us out on YouTube, we got a whole new look. We're going to have a whole new a couple of little bells and whistles and things around here. Things maybe making a little more, clean, I guess. I don't know. You know me. You guys know me. I'm a little bit of, kind of a wackadoodle podcaster guy. I don't know. Maybe I'm just blowing smoke here, but again, just thank you so much for tuning in. And hey, did you know we're on Sirius XM? You can find us on the Sirius XM app, Locked On Rockies. You can also find all the play-by-play action of your Colorado Rockies on Sirius XM, especially coming up as the Rockies could continue to face big-time pitching. You can catch all the action of Rockies and Mets coming up here on Sirius XM and on the Sirius XM app. Today on the Locked On Rockies podcast, let's talk about Elias Díaz being an all-star. Let's talk about that ninth inning. I mean, how much happened there, the Rockies series overall. And one thing that's really a telltale sign for the Rockies and against the Marlins, at least in this series, something that the Rockies were able to accomplish that few have accomplished against the Marlins in this series. Of course, I think the conversation about pitching depth is a worthwhile one, especially as that ninth inning concluded here in that finale against the Marlins. Overall, the Rockies take 3 of 4 from the Miami Marlins, a team that's playing that came into this series above 500. Rockies knock them a game below 500 to 25-26. The Rockies go to 22-29 on the season. The Rockies really playing a pretty decent ball with some exceptions, especially in game number 3. That one was just a wash. And the Rockies did go up against a good pitcher there. Sandy Alcantara is one of the best in the business, even with his struggles this season and his struggles at Coors Field in his history. You still can't sit there and count out a guy that's the former Cy Young. And what did he do? He went out there and pitched really well against the Rockies. One interesting thing to kind of take away here too, and when you're looking for kind of small warning signs from the Rockies, even though this was a series win and multiple times the Rockies coming back in games as well, or fending off late rallies, kind of doing it both ways in this series. They got out hit in just about every single one of these games. I think the exception was just in the series finale there. Out hit 14-4 in the loss there in game 3. Then out hit 11-7 in game number 2. And then here in game number 1, out hit 11-7 there as well. That's a Miami team that's not a great offense. That's a team that hasn't been swinging the bat very well, or as you might have caught in our crossover there with Peter Pratt. They need some more sticks in that lineup, and this was a lineup that was able to handle Rockies pitching and at least do some damage. And I think hopefully they're hoping that they can continue this offense here that they got at Coors Field. This was a Rockies team that wasn't able to really dominate a bad offense, and that's not really a good sign. When you're worried about looking ahead, and I know I'm being critical here of a win, but let's get the bad out of the way first. Some of the bad, because the real bad news is yet to come. Obviously, with Brenton Doyle leaving the game early in this one, it's a different story. Anyway, wanted to focus more on the other points we were making here, the offense and those teams. I mean, you got the Mets coming into town with their 2 Hall of Famers on the bump and an offense that's also looking to do the same, really looking to break out, really looking to do some damage, and looks to be revamped. It's the Rockies are seeing a Mets team that is certainly not the Mets team that they saw before. The Mets, though, still struggling in this series, their prior series against the Cubs, losing in both of the first 2 games. And as of recording, they haven't played the finale yet, but it is a late ball game there for them, a rare night game in Chicago. Wonder if that'll have any impacts there. But the Mets did go up against one of the best team in baseball to this point in season, the Rays, and take a series from them. In one of those games, they did score 8 runs. The Mets also put up a 10 spot against the Guardians. Haven't done much offensively against the Cubs, but again, this is a team that is in a different spot and having the two of the greatest pitchers of all time go up against the Rockies. Now we've seen great pitchers struggle at Coors Field, and that'll be an interesting factor. But what we did see here, though, is the Rockies win a series against a good Marlins rotation. A good 3 out of, you can't really look at most of those Marlins starters and say they're bad starters, especially at the front half of that series. The Rockies went up against elite pitching there. Edward Cabrera goes 6 innings, striking out 6, but still tagged for 3 runs. And then the Rockies were really able to take advantage of the bullpen a few times in this series. We saw it on full display there in the bottom of the 9th in the finale, as well as the Marlins bullpen was shaky coming there. In the second game, Yuri Perez, the young guy, that's the big question that they were going to have. How is he going to handle Coors Field? And shaky in that start, 4 hits, 3 earned runs, 3 walks. So the big name pitchers, a big name rotation, a bunch of good starters came into Coors Field, and outside of Sandy struggled. But that's when you're looking, though, when you kind of are someone, when you're evaluating, does a pitcher still have it? Sandy's going to be fine. Even getting tagged for 2 runs and the 3 walks, I still think that he still has potential. I mean, I just don't think it's really hard to recreate, Cy Young caliber stuff, but that was a solid start, especially for him at Coors Field, a place that he's really struggled. That could be a big momentum booster for the Marlins. But all in all, I mean, again, Rockies team that took the challenge head on of good pitching and protected the house here. And that 9th inning, unfortunately, all in all, what was going to be just kind of a positive, happy recap, it was marred by a 9th inning where the Rockies potentially lose one of their most exciting players of the season so far, Brenton Doyle, who crashed. I mean, that was a loud crash into the wall. The reaction was visible, carted off the field, was able to put a little bit of weight on it, but the implications of losing Brenton Doyle are honestly massive for the Rockies at this point. You're losing your best base running threat. You're losing your center field option, a young guy who's really broken out onto the major league scene. Losing Brenton Doyle for extended period of time would be a massive blow to the Rockies and an unfortunate derailment to a really exciting career for Brenton Doyle. The Rockies are going to have to navigate that, but in a plus, even though the big takeaway is Bard's got to get ready to close. Pierce Johnson's time as a closer that door is rapidly shutting. He's really not been as solid as he was to start the year. So the Rockies are going to have to start asking Daniel Bard to start coming in bigger situations and start coming in, or other options, potentially a Justin Lawrence or someone like that to take care of things. Justin Lawrence, I know, was used earlier in the series finale there against Miami, but you're going to have to rethink where Pierce Johnson is going to go in the lineup, because there have been too many late games, and you can't give up 2 2-run home runs with a 4-run lead in the 9th. And that was just the cherry on top of what looked to be a disastrous inning. I mean, a little bit of bad luck there with the ball ricocheting off of Ryan McMahon's glove and a single turning into a double and a drop third strike going. I mean, there was definitely some there to Brent Suter, actually. I think the drop third strike happened too. But, so a little bit of bad luck, but also that's where you need to, what was so nice about Daniel Bard last year is, even though more often than not, he came in and just shut the door there. And Pierce Johnson started like that, but hasn't been able to do that so far this season. And that's something I think the Rockies really need to take a look at here at the end of this series. But we got to talk about a player in particular. Let's highlight the positives, and let's highlight, at least right now, the Rockies candidate for All-Star, Elias Díaz. And I can't believe I'm saying that, but there is no doubt about it that he has been the best player on the Colorado Rockies this year. And if he continues at this rate, is going to make some noise as one of the better catchers in the game. Let's talk about Elias Díaz and a little bit more about this Marlins series coming up next here on segment number 2 of today's episode of Locked On Rockies. But before we do that, let me tell you about our friends at Birddogs. Birddogs are honestly my new favorite shorts. They kind of fit a lot of the needs that I need. I'm currently wearing a pair of Birddogs shorts, but it's kind of hard to stand up or else I'd show you. And I don't know, maybe you don't really want to see my big old beady thighs anyway. Anyway, these shorts are perfect for a guy like me who loves to wear shorts. I'm a shorts like 300 days out of the year, shorts all the time. They have a great sleek look to them. So not only does it clean up my style a little bit more as someone who often wears basketball shorts and sweatpants shorts, switch to these and I get a nice amount of comfort and a great look for a guy like me. I think they fit a guy like me who, sometimes needs a little bit of that elasticity when it comes to around the waist. I kind of got a weird shaped body, but Birddogs fit me perfectly, and I bet they will fit you as well. Great comfort and more. You can see all of the great options for yourself at birddogs.com/lockedonmlb. And when you make your purchase of your next favorite pair of shorts at birddogs.com/lockedonmlb, enter the promo code LOCKEDONMLB, and they're going to throw in a free custom Birddogs Yeti style tumbler right here. You can see I actually have been using it. It's got my water. I drink it during the show. There you go. So check it all out at birddogs.com/lockedonmlb. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast. Paul Holden bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Proud to be your first listen of the day. Free and streaming on your favorite streaming service. Folks, we're also on the SiriusXM app, and you can catch all the game action between the Rockies and the Mets coming up tomorrow at 6:40 Mountain Time on SiriusXM or the SiriusXM app. Just search Rockies, and you can select the feed of your choice. Maybe you want to check out the Mets feed there sometimes, or just listen to the Rockies. You can check them out there, and you can check us out there as well, Locked On Rockies. But we're free on your favorite streaming service and the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel. Going to get back to the live streams as soon as we can. Made a couple of tweaks here behind the scenes after I also had a couple of great crossover episodes as well that filled in for the other time. So we'll get back to our live podcasts here real soon. But let's talk about Elias freaking Díaz. Elias Díaz so far this season has 50 hits, 26 RBI, 6 home runs. He's batting 340, 396 OPS or OBP, and an OPS of 927 in this series against Miami, or at least I believe. Let's just go in the last 7 games. Let's go last full 7 games here for Elias Díaz. 3 home runs, 11 hits in 28 at bats, 6 runs, 8 RBI, 3 walks to 4 strikeouts, 393 average, an OBP of 452, and a slugging of 821. All while also being the absolute threat behind the dish to throw things away. Don't always love the glove work, but that's just me being nitpicky there. Amazing, the turnaround of Elias Díaz, and if it continues throughout the season, it's a really great option. And I think a veteran the Rockies should consider sticking with. I mean, now here's the deal: there are teams. Elias Díaz might be becoming your most interesting trade piece, sure, but with Drew Romo not necessarily being like right away, is it really all that bad to continue Elias Díaz, who has a great repertoire with a lot of your Rockies pitchers at this point, with catching for the Rockies for a couple of years on short-term deals? Nothing long, nothing crazy. I'm talking 1-year extensions, maybe a 2-year with a team option, something like that. because this is really great catcher play that's very hard to get, and especially offensive production. It's very rare in baseball, and especially rare in Rockies history, that the catcher is doing a lot of the heavy lifting when it comes to your offense. And now I'm hesitant, and I sit here and I get worried about the grand full season and how and just the regression that's possible for a season. But the sample size for Diaz is pretty good and pretty large, at least at this point. He's played 44 games. So what is that? 4, 8, 12. So he's a quarter of the way through the season, or technically, I guess it's a third of the way, but he's played a quarter of the games so far of 162 total. And that's a good first quarter, but I need to see it continue a little bit further until I'm fully convinced that it's going to happen, because we know how we've seen some cold streaks from Elias Díaz. But whatever adjustments he's made, I think overall, and we've talked about it on the show before, the adjustments not only as a ball player, but off the field and everything, Elias Díaz, it just seems to be a different type of player this year. And I know there's more extended coverage. I haven't had a chance to catch up on reading some stuff. And I believe some people, I think there was a feature done on Diaz on one of the outlets. I can't remember, but you're seeing his name more. You're hearing it on the broadcast. This is great, because when you look at the other areas and when you look at the other things of concern, because one topic that we need to dive deeper in is the Rockies can't continue to have Kris Bryant just hitting singles. I mean, we've talked about him being okay, but I believe it was Manny Randall that posted. I might have attributed the stat wrong, but someone posted that he's a below average hitter now by WRC plus standards and advanced stat measures. And that's concerning. I mean, it's really tough that you're not confident that Kris Bryant comes up to the dish and could walk it off with a home run swing in that series finale. I mean, you think it is there, but then the broadcast reminds you that Kris Bryant hasn't homered since the beginning of May. And you're just like, sheesh. Like, that's tough. That's tough. I mean, I know, and a great at bat by Kris Bryant, professional at bat, gets on base. But again, at least I know that was my side path. I want to dive more into Kris Bryant. I want to let's just circle back to Elias Díaz. But that's where these two connect. Kris Bryant's struggles when it comes to being the big slugger, and having Elias Díaz pick it up, especially when CJ Cron has been absent from the lineup and absent in terms of production. And sometimes I know Cron has put the ball over the wall and put the thump in the ball a couple of times already this year. Sure. But that's what makes Elias Díaz so important. He is impacting almost every asset of the game for the Colorado Rockies. And that's why, if this pace continues, at least for the first half of the season, it is in no doubt the candidate for the Colorado Rockies to be an all-star. He's playing all-star caliber. He's hitting like an all-star. He's throwing guys out like an all-star. And he is someone that's putting in the work and kind of putting in the role of all-star, someone that I think would really be a good candidate early on in the season for the Rockies to name as their all-star. It's the only thing that you just like are right now that keeps me hesitant about Elias Díaz and what it looks like at the end of the year is just a full season of baseball. But we're almost 2 months into this thing now, and we're seeing this guy continue to step up in big situations and continue to be effective. And again, we talked about good pitching coming into this this series here against the Marlins. And what does he do? He hits 3 home runs in the series, and he strikes out, and he strikes out 4 times, but walking 3 times. A great strikeout to walk ratio, drives in 8 and has driven in 8 over the last 7 there. I know that's more than the Marlins. I'm sorry, I got my stats a little mixed up there. But the point is, the sample size is big enough to believe that Díaz is for real right now. Things can change. But the good solid stretch, the change in approach, the change in footwork, the change in mindset, the changes that Elias Díaz made in the offseason went from making him someone who I thought was going to fade away this year, fade out of Rockies relevance, instead is standing at the forefront of the all-star conversation when it comes to the Colorado Rockies. And that's really awesome. Catching is a very difficult position, arguably one of the most difficult in baseball, depending on the way you look at it. And like we said, like we've talked about, like you've heard a million times, getting production from there is a rare thing. To get it on both sides of the ball from Elias Díaz is a special thing. It's a really, really big surprise and continues to be one of the best storylines for the Rockies here. Let's wrap up this Rockies series by taking a look at the starting pitching. Let's also see if there's been any early reports on Brenton Doyle. I highly doubt it. We are recording this pretty quickly after the end of the series here, but we will see. But Rockies get a 3-1 win. Walk-off tacos for the Rockies after blowing a late lead. A big sigh of relief for the Colorado Rockies in that one, because man, if you lose Brenton Doyle and that game at the same time, man, it is would be a tough one. But we got some reaction from Bud Black and more here from some of the people covering the Rockies inside the clubhouse. We'll take a look at that and finish talking about this series in segment number 3 of today's episode of the Locked On Rockies podcast, after I tell you about our friends at Rocket Money. And I know you got a bunch of subscriptions. I know you got all the subscription services. You got your streaming services. You got your shopping services. You got this, you got that, you got the other thing. Guess what? Rocket Money is going to help you get it all straightened out and help you cancel those ones that you don't need anymore and help save you some money. Over 3 million people have used Rocket Money, and they save the average person up to $720 a year. Stop throwing your money away. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and manage your expenses the easy way by going to rocketmoney.com/lockedonmlb. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps you lower your bills all in one place. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedonmlb, so you can start saving yourself a little bit of dough and cancel those unwanted subscriptions today. rocketmoney.com/lockedonmlb. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast. I'm Paul Holden. Thank you so much for making us your first listen of the day. Thank you for being an everyday listener and tuning in to your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. And if your team is the Colorado Rockies, well, hang out with us on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel. Find all the action there. Be part of the show when we go live. How do you know when we go live? Subscribe to Locked On Rockies. That's how you do it. Hey, you can find us on SiriusXM. You can find us on the SiriusXM app, and you can find all the action of the Colorado Rockies on the SiriusXM app and SiriusXM as well. 6:40 first pitch, and going up against some of the best in the business this weekend, the New York Mets. But Rockies pitching this homestand so far, this series, shaky, especially today in areas. Kyle Freeland, honestly, though, not too bad. 5 innings, 7 hits, 2 earned, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts. Hold on. Quick water break. Okay, back in action here. Back from the unfortunate timing of that water break. Anyway, we are talking about the pitchers here, going through Rockies pitchers. Kyle Freeland, solid start. 7 hits, 2 earned, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts here. Daniel Bard, 2 innings, solid there for him as well, limiting the walks. Big move for him there, getting there in that middle relief. I am curious how long, like we talked about earlier, how long is Daniel Bard going to stay in these positions now full time? I don't know. It's the first time we've seen him in a bit though, so we will see. Austin Gomber, 5 and 2/3 hitting, 4 hits, 3 earned, a walk and a strikeout, or 2 strikeouts, I should say. Not the most solid line there, but, not too shabby. But again, the big issue when it comes to right now with the Rockies, closer Pierce Johnson, both appearances in this series, giving up runs late in the 9th, making things close. And the one big thing the Rockies did this series that that the Marlins have been so good at this year is the 1-run ball game. The Rockies take 2 1-run wins away from the Marlins and escape only with a 2-run win in game number 1. So all of the wins for the Rockies were close, something the Marlins were really good at this year. So a testament to them and a testament to their strength and a testament to the Rockies pitching for at least keeping them in enough games there, even with some starts that weren't necessarily the best or the most flashy. Chase Anderson, not too shabby as well. Just a lot of hits and a lot of traffic. The big issue in that first game, it just seemed like he had a lot of issues and a lot of batters on. Well, that's because he gave up 8 hits and 2 walks there. So this Rockies rotation, again, not instilling a ton of confidence in you there, but able to get the job done. But it's as we mentioned and talked about in segment number 2 or segment number 1 earlier in the show. This was a Marlins team that hasn't been a great offense, but came into Coors Field and was able to find some offensive success. So that starting pitching depth and pitching depth overall continues to be worrisome. But the Rockies apparently believe Dinelson Lamet might be a starter candidate when he gets back into the major leagues after rehabbing there, which would be interesting, especially with the way this season has gone for him so far. All right, folks, looking ahead, the Rockies got a really, really tough stretch here. A good Mets team coming into town, headlined by the Scherzer-Verlander starting matchups. The Rockies are going to see both of them in this series. And as for Brenton Doyle, Kyle Newman here says, Bud Black said he believes a Rockies rookie, Brenton Doyle, is going to be okay. He suffered a knee contusion on a collision into the outfield wall and will hopefully avoid the injured list. I'm trying to see if there's anything else here. But that's apparently from the clubhouse here. Fingers crossed for that, because if the Rockies avoid an IL stretch for him, that's going to be huge. But the Rockies have also missed out on some issues on diagnosing their pitcher or some of their players here after their injuries are suffered. So we're hoping all the best for Doyle. That is his return is going to be big for the Rockies, and a big moment there for this season as the Rockies continue to try to fight back towards 500. Folks, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Thank you so much for tuning in. You can find us free and streaming on your favorite streaming service and on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel. And all you got to do to find that is just search Locked On Rockies. And you can find your second listen, which is Locked On MLB, on all your favorite streaming services as well. You can find us everywhere. Come hang out. Come talk Rockies with us. And until next time, this is Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies podcast.